What is up, everyone? I'm Oblivio of IMAvideo, and today I'm going to be going over why I find the guns so annoying in Artifact Assault. Now, before I get any farther than that, I just wanted to let you guys know this is my opinion. There are a lot of competitive Artifact Assault clans and groups which agree with this, but there are some that don't, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, so if you don't like it, please do not spam my video with dislikes. There are some very logical reasons why this works for Artifact Assault, and only for Artifact Assault. You can use the gun in other game types, and it's actually useful to do so. So with that in mind, let's get started. Now, for the casual player or casual groups which use gun and Artifact Assault, it can only be used as a defensive weapon. And that means that you're going to have a large group of people playing defense. Now, that can sometimes mean 3 to 4 people playing defense in Artifact Assault. Now, why that is so annoying is simply because the whole goal is to score artifacts, which means you actually have to leave your side to do it. And if you play the entire game with 3 to 4 men, you're not going to be able to do it easily, or at all. And it defeats the whole purpose of the game type. Now here you can see, right in the circle area, there's 3 individuals. Now there are the only 3 individuals in the game, but that's still a little excessive. And here we go. This is another reason why I don't like people using the gun. You just saw, I was standing still. I was not making an aggressive move towards the artifact. I was just scouting things out. There was no reason to shoot me at that moment. None at all. It was merely done just because he could. Now, when I first started playing Assassin's Creed 3, I did play with the gun. I tried it out. And what I found is that it is most effective right as someone's jumping into the circle, or right as they're leaving the circle. So to shoot someone for the sake of shooting them, all you're doing is wasting your bullet, and you've accomplished nothing. For most people, it's considered basically a slap in the face, and it's almost guaranteed to piss someone off. Most of the time enough so that they'll pull out their own gun and shoot you if you ever cross. Well, there are several reasons why I stopped using the gun in AC3 and why I continued that policy in AC4. First, it stops them in their tracks completely. They're hunched over trying to pull the knife out of their leg, and even then they're hobbling for a little bit afterwards. That gives time for either yourself or one of your teammates to get there and get him to return the artifact. If you shoot somebody, they drop the artifact. Someone else can pick it up. And in the majority of the time, if you have a good team, they will pick it up and continue to run with it. And you haven't slowed them down at all. Another reason is the cooldowns. Even without investing any crafting points into cooldowns, the gun will always be slower than the knife. You can use a knife more often than you can use the gun, and that's critical, because how often you have your ranged weapon can sometimes determine whether or not the runner scores a point or not. There have been games where 10 seconds on your cooldown is enough to cost you an artifact. The third is that a knife is an all-around ranged weapon. For a gun, you can only kill a target, which means that you have to wait till they cross, which is why it's only used for defense, or on the unlikely case that the runner made it past the halfway line and is on their side. That's the only other time you can use the gun on that half of the map. The knife can be used for defense, it can be used for offense, and will more than likely be used for runners because they can hit defenders with knives to keep them from attacking them, or to get a persistent defender off their back so that they can get to where they need to go to escape. It's an all-around item, and it can be used at any time for any number of reasons.
You are now a target.
Now, I mentioned earlier that the competitive Artifact Assault groups don't use gun. They also don't use hack, and that's standard rules for tournaments and for Artifact Assault seasons. But that's only true for North America and some European countries. I know that there are European tournaments where the gun is allowed and teleport isn't. And that's just because if you can teleport away most of the time you're gone, it's seen as a cheap move. And in some respects, they're correct, because you're teleporting in, you're getting past the defense to begin with, or you're teleporting out and you're getting away from them. And there's not a whole lot that can be done at that point, unless you're ahead of them. Now that being said, I think teleport takes a greater level of skill to use than a gun. A gun is basically you aim, you shoot, you get the kill, unless they have anima shield. A teleport, you need to know where you're teleporting to, and experienced defenders will be able to teleport cutoff, as you just saw, and that you need to be able to predict where they're running to, when you should start your teleport. There's a bunch of mitigating factors in there in order to hit that exactly right to get them, so that they cannot respawn fast enough. I mentioned that there are some game types where a gun is actually useful. One of those is domination. That's also a team-based game type, and sometimes on some maps there are places where a character can jump back and forth, and it's very hard to kill them. Easiest thing to do is pull out a gun and shoot them. And then you can worry about someone else. Manhunt, you shoot someone if they're running away from you, and you don't feel like chasing, because if you chase them, you're just wasting time. In both cases, it's perfectly acceptable and even encouraged to use the gun. Really? Really? I get knifed and shot when I'm standing still. That's a waste of a knife and a gun. And there's still someone on their side. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Why would you do that? Now all a runner has to do is get in there and get past you a little bit, and none of those two guys can do anything, at least for about 70 seconds. Why did he do that? He was up there, he decided to shoot. We weren't even going for the artifact yet. We were thinking about it, but we hadn't gotten there yet. So what's the point?
The opposing team stole your artifact. Your artifact is back at your base.
Now there are some clans out there which do use gun, and they encourage every one of their members to use gun. But the only way that they've ever been effective is if all four of them play defense the whole game. Because no matter what, the runners have the advantage. They know where you are, they can whittle down your abilities, they can get boost cooldowns. Eventually a runner will get through. Unless you have all four people there, just decimating them if they cross, if you have someone in the circle to get that teleport in. There are a bunch of different ways to do it, but it's only effective in 3 to 4 man D. Consistent 3 to 4 man D. And even then, more than likely, one's gonna get out, and then what?
You are now a target. The opposing team stole your artifact. The opposing team scores.
So some of you may be thinking, well, you only got shot 4 times. Why would you be angry about that? Well, I only died 7, so more than half of my kills were just getting shot. And every single time I was standing still, just looking in. I wasn't going for the artifact, I didn't have the artifact, there was no reason to shoot me right there. And I wasn't the one getting shot.
1 minute remaining.
So those are my reasons. I know that some of you out there will continue to use the gun, and that's okay. But if you're playing in the North American tournaments, or if you're thinking about getting competitive and joining a clan, keep in mind that if they play Artifact Assault, you're going to need to learn to use a knife anyway. They're not going to allow you to use a gun. It will disqualify teams if you do that in a competitive environment, in scrims or in tournaments. So the next time you get rage from a veteran because you used a gun, these are the reasons.
You are now a target.